Welcome back to the Automation Podcast, the world's number one industrial automation product and technology show. Thanks to you, our audience of highly skilled automation professionals. Thank you for being a member of our audience, and thank you for tuning in this week. This week, we have another interview with someone from Schneider Electric. This is with Nick Rosner. We meet up to talk about VFDs and applications, including HVAC and even building management applications. And I thought it was just a very interesting interview. I hope you will as well. Before we get to that, just one quick announcement. I want to thank Schneider for sponsoring this episode so I can bring it to you completely ad free. So, with that said, let's go ahead and jump into this week's episode of the Automation Podcast. Nick, thank you for coming back on the show and agreeing to sit down with me for an interview. And I know you've been on the show a couple times before, talking about drives most of the time. But because we'll have new people who watch this or this episode, as well as given the fact that your role has changed a little bit since last time we had you on, would you mind kind of giving us an introduction? Tell us who you are, tell us a little bit about your past, and tell us what you're doing today.
Well, pleasure being here with you again, Sean, at the Automation Podcast. For the audience that have not met me before, I'm Nick Rosner, Senior Offer Manager for the Schneider Electric Drive Solutions team and also their go-to-market leader. Um, I've had quite a bit of experience with Schneider, starting from the machinery drives portfolio to the soft starters to the Altivar Legacy line for HVAC and the process. Most recently, I am in charge of the go-to-market strategy for our new HVAC drives portfolio and its launch. And a little bit about me, my experience is a degree in electrical engineering, professional registered mechanical engineer in California and Arizona, and have about almost 2 decades of experience in drives, automation, and the construction and municipality space.
Yeah, and I kind of always view you as my drives guy at Schneider. You have just so much knowledge, but now you're doing, am I correct? HVAC, right?
That is correct. That's my focus, yes, that I
So,
have right now.
and I know you have this new product on the show floor that I have not. Matter of fact, we're going to go there right after this. But tell us about these products that you have that focus on HVAC.
Yeah, and great question. So, as you know, before we have a great Schneider platform with like free so move software that's very intuitive with graphic displays and excellent graphic keypad for programming features. So, all the things that our automation customers know and love about the Schneider family, we're essentially developed the next generation offer for Schneider that really transcends into that HVAC space. So, it has those HVAC features, it has those HVAC functions, still has the robustness of like Schneider's out of the box high C degree rating, so 120 out of the box, and such things as our sustainability like goals, recycled cardboard, green plastic, green aluminum. So all the things from the original Schneider family, we're essentially expanding that onto the HVAC space, and would be excited to show you some of the great new features. It's still in the pre-launch space, so we have a couple of things that I want to give you all a sneak peek for, but can certainly tell you about all the features that we're thinking of developing, the standards that for BACnet, which is the communication in the building's protocol, some of the fire mode, the damper control, the run enable. So everybody that is familiar with that HVAC space and requires that, we will have a Schneider look, feel, next generation portfolio for that segment.
That's pretty amazing. And so, I mean, you're just hitting all those like buttons right there that you're going to want. And most building applications, most HVAC applications, and of course, BACnet is so huge to have that. And of course, you tie into your, of course, your own building management system, but others as well, right?
Correct. So the great thing about Schneider is we do have some amazing protocol communication with the industrial and now the building space. What we do is we have the MSTP native serial on board of the new HVAC products, and we do have an expansion available for BACnet IP, which is essentially what could go into the Schneider. We call it EcoStructural Building Operation Protocol, or any third-party building management system. However, when you do maintain it within the Schneider family, you just got have that, which most of our customer base prefers, one company with a whole solution approach rather than sending state-of-the-art individual components for the business. We go to the market both ways and have the solution for customers looking for just a component or the full solution.
Yeah, you know, it sounds like, if somebody's used your other VFDs that that this is gonna bring some of that usability with it. Am I correct in saying that, or is this gonna be like a totally different beast to set up and program?
Oh, no, no. So our customer base is going to have that same look and feel with the Schneider Advanced Graphic keypad with a simple start menu, being able to use that Somo platform that we just talked about. And on top of that, our integration into both our EcoStruxure Machine Expert, which is our PLC platform, or into the Building Management System platform. So we're just expanding our portfolio to grow into another segment. And to your point, for those that are familiar with Schneider drives, going to have that same look, feel, um, and the robustness of the Schneider platform behind it.
That's excellent, and that's so you get that same DNA that's part of your existing offering is gonna be part of this new offering, which I think is so important.
Absolutely. And one of the things that Schneider has been known in the HVAC space in the past is we are the brand that provides the full-fledged VFD, the premium VFD, that has the smallest footprint. So we will remain true to that, still maintaining within the Schneider platform,
Yeah.
usually 40 to 50% less than the competitors in terms of size. So it tends to be a very, very cost-effective solution for our customers trying to go into a small panel, an OEM machine, and still have that harmonic distortion compliance, usually the standard, which is in the 40% range, our EMC um, on board, and some of our other features that we have with our standard Schneider drives that will still be holding true for now the HVAC offering.
Now, for those in the audience who maybe just use general purpose VFDs, right, or VSDs, you know, on the production lines in manufacturing, can you and I know you kinda already talked about this a little bit, but just to kinda go through it maybe in a little bit more detail, what are some of the things that, you know, aside from BACnet, I think we all probably know that's one of the main protocols, right? But aside from that, like, what are the things that are important in HVAC and or building management systems that maybe the average user like me and the audience, some in the audience anyways, would not, think about as being a feature they need in their VFD. So things that are really aimed towards that HVAC market.
Well, we were one of the first manufacturers that actually got A2L compliance, which essentially means that there's a demand for new, more sustainable refrigerants in the community. However, those refrigerants are flammable. And in order to meet that flammable requirement that your devices will not cause an explosion if somehow there's a leak,
Okay.
we were one of the first brands out there to come with not just the Drive A2L compliance, but we also have that on our breakers, on our relays, on our PLC. So we essentially are the top manufacturer out there to have that A2L compliant panel for those OEMs, which is very key if you want to go into that HVAC space with the builders as well, and also with our premium drives A2L and A3 compliance for the green refrigerants.
Hey everyone, I just want to jump in here really quick and thank Schneider for sponsoring this episode so I could release it ad free. Also, want to let members know that I did release an episode while I was at ISA. It was a preview episode of my presentation that I did at ISA. It was for members only. So if you missed that and you're a member, please check that out over on the Automation blog and YouTube. And with that said, now let's jump back into this week's episode of the Automation Podcast. That's pretty amazing. What are some of those other features you mentioned at the beginning? I can't remember them all, but there was all these things you were saying aside from that that you had to have in this HVAC drive that to be like the big player in that market.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you bring up some really good points because if you're using a general purpose drive, you might have to modify some industrial features or play around with, which by the way, we have some amazing stuff like embedded PLCs in our VFDs, which is still going to hold true with the new HVAC drives, which is pretty amazing. It will have standard features that are programmable via the SOMove or the keypad
Okay.
or the drive itself, such as fire mode, which is being able to operate on fire mode under certain circumstances. Damper control, so opening and closing of dampers during sequences of operation. Um, Run permissive or run enable, like it's known in the industry that before a sequence of operation runs or starts, there must be another essentially AND gate that allows that to move forward. And there's just so much more that goes beyond that, like catch on the fly, there's stairwell pressurization with multiple IOs. So all the features that the HVAC segment demands essentially are going to be something that we'll be launching with a new offer.
Yeah, a lot of those features you just mentioned, right? They sound so important, but if I'm doing conveying or material handling, I don't usually talk about those things, right?
Correct.
So, or I say when I'm interviewing people who actually do that for a living, we're not talking about those things. And so I just find that so interesting. So, at this point, I really want to take, step back a little bit because you have so many years in this industry and using and being a product manager for VFDs in various roles. Um, what are some of the trends that you're seeing in industry today that are positive, right? So I think we can all think of things that aren't always positive, but I think it's more productive to say, hey, where are we doing? Where are we going in the right direction? And so can you share some things that you're seeing out there, like with your interactions with the factory, with your customers, with your partners? What are some of the positive trends that you are seeing out there?
That's a great question. What we're seeing in the automation space in general is that people want more than just a drive, a shaft turner, a component. Our customer base, the industry, they seem to want a solution. And beyond the solution, they want your device to have analytics. They want your device to be able to have this. Um, well, we have embedded into a web server into many of our products. So that embedded web server capability and analytics, predictive maintenance, PLC-like functionalities inside of the device that can go into like Ethernet Harmony Wireless Gateway, and you could access remotely. Just the next generation of technology is what we usually lead with. On top of that, we are the top brand on cybersecurity compliance with IEC, the Achilles Level 2 certification that's known in the that industry space that we comply with. So all of that is really what we see that is the true demand for automation, more than just a product. You're providing a solution, and on top of that, your product is a cutting edge product that demand that has those analytics, maintenance, and more than just a static device that does a process. So something more efficient, more reliable, that can do more than just a product.
Yeah, I think security. I think we've had ISA on the show several times talking about security. And, I think we all know that. We've talked about how just plugging your phone at the airport to charge it could make your phone a vector for an attack in your plant if you bring your device to work. But when it comes to, customers wanting, and again, you're always going to have the high volume OEMs who we want a shaft turner, but you're seeing less and less in that because people understand that there's this concept on the internet where when people see a great feature on one website, they want to see it on all websites, right? Or if people see a great feature in one app, they expect it to be added to all apps, right? That's not how reality works. A lot of times, the other websites or app developers have no idea what the other people are doing, right? Because they have to get their job done. But that's an expectation among the user. And I think with products like smart IO link devices, right? Even little sensors now coming with tilt, temperature, humidity, like I never needed that for my inductive procs and my photo eye, but now they're coming with that. And people are saying, you know what? If my $100 sensor can give me that, then I want my $500 VFD to give me all kinds of great information too. And we actually have today, maybe we didn't have it 20, 30, 40 years ago, but today we have the networks and we have the infrastructure, like maybe customers are using Aviva, InTouch, or one of the other products, Pi, but we have the infrastructures in our facilities today that use that data to present it to the people who need to have that information, the alarms, the data, the trends. So I can definitely see why that's a trend that you're seeing because and two, people have to do more with less, right? So we don't have as many people coming into the industry as are retiring, and so it makes a lot of sense that they need more data. They don't have the time to go poke around and look at all the parameters manually. They need that as a report that's proactively sent them. And I know, can you tell us a little bit about your building management system? So this your drive is actually on the show floor next to that. Tell us a little bit about that. That's a big part of Schneider's business, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So we specifically made that drive to be able to integrate into the constructional building operation, which is our Schneider BMS.
Yeah.
We have individual controllers, which are called ASPs, and then subcontrollers under that to go into like individual devices such as the air handlers, the chillers, the VFDs. So it is, if you will, very strong parallel to the industrial automation space. However, in the buildings, there's a certain bit of different needs.
Oh yeah.
Their focus is more on efficiency, net zero, but on the building operations side. And we are expanding that into our power monitoring platform. So we have integration of both buildings and power monitoring in the same platform. And even some of our latest launches that we're having here at Schneider, our forefront technology that can put all that together is really what we're focusing on the building space.
Yeah, I sat through quite a bit, and power is a whole nother segment where there's going to be a huge need for so much more power if these data centers are built as they're planning to be built for AI and other purposes. So power is huge, and saving power is huge too. And I think every time we talk about variable frequency drives or speed drives, we got to talk about energy savings. That's a huge part of every application. So if you got a pump or motor that's not on a VFD, um, it's probably always, would you agree with me on that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at its core, the reason why we came out with VFDs and the VFD technology, this solid state component and devices that are inside of it are essentially the same thing that you would see in like a solar cell
Yeah.
or um, an EV when you are going into essentially just using one pedal to control your vehicle to accelerate and decelerate or stop. That's essentially using what we know in the VFD business as DC braking and regen. So
Yeah.
instead of having an actual hardware that's blocking or stopping, you are having the VFD technology itself take that into useful energy, make your process more efficient. And going back to the basics of why we have a VFD, um, that pulse width modulated technology that comes out of drive essentially translate into a tremendous amount of energy savings where just at half you're only using an eighth of the power essentially, like theoretically. Obviously there's other things that go into that, but that is the basis of how we make processes more efficient, how we make buildings more efficient, and buildings are about 30 to 40% of the energy used in the space, so they're just so critical pretty much across the board.
Yeah, there was some really interesting talks given in the keynote, I think, about making buildings more energy efficient. And it's amazing how much energy we waste in buildings just because they're old and they weren't designed to be efficient back then because the cost of energy wasn't such a big concern back then. I want to kind of move over to, as we're finishing up the interview, I want to move over to kind of like, what do you think, given everything that's happened this year, given everything that's all the new products you have coming out and all the other products that are coming out that were shown on the plant floor, what do you think some of the trends will be going forward? Like, what do you think 2026 may hold for us?
Well, I'll just say 2026, but I'm thinking 1 year, 2 years, and that usually comes out in a blink of an eye.
Oh,
So
yeah.
us as Schneider, a company that leads technology and the next generation of innovation, we are always trying to be that one step ahead.
Yeah.
So the technology that we're coming out with today will still be relevant in a year or two. But that direction that we're going with right now, connected smart products that integrate into the edge, the BMS or the PLC, that go into that analytical layer, the Aviva or the enterprise, are really what the industry is looking for. We're looking for scaling all these operations, scaling the efficiency, and being able to essentially, with that, um, make the industry, in my opinion, more fun for the audiences that they want to go into that space. So there's just so many things that we can go into, but high level, I think that I'm pretty excited about the future, what it looks like. And that's, in my opinion, the way that our company, the direction that it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're running out of time. The crew's giving me the old hook. But was there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap up the interview?
Well, we'll certainly talk more about this when we go up on the floor, Sean. But we do have some exciting new launches coming up, particularly as the HVAC drive that I'm leading. But we did come out with, I know that you mentioned material handling. We have a decentralized drive with IO Link. They can combine well with our PLC platform for fast device replacement. When there's an operator with a failure, it can get that fast device replacement. So there's just so many cool things that we could talk about. Maybe once you go upstairs, and then we can rehash at our next meeting. But I'd love to definitely spend some more time with you and go to the show together.
All right. Well, I'm going to take you up on it because I didn't know about that other drive. So we're going to go check that out. Nick, I want to thank you again you've got the trifecta now. You've done 3 podcasts, and, I just really appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming on.
It's just a pleasure being here again, Sean. Great having you.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I wanna thank Nick from Schneider for coming on the show, and also thank Schneider for sponsoring the episode so we can release it to you ad-free. I also wanna wish you all good health and happiness, and until next time, my friends, peace.